In the little town of Ijebu-Eko, nobody remembered a man as poor as Alhaji Tunde, not because he was special, he was ordinary, but because he had nothing, no house, no goats, no dignity, only a tiny rickety shop that sold second-hand soap and gossip. Alhaji Tunde dreamed of wealth every night. He dreamed of shiny cars, big houses, and chickens that never got stolen. But every morning, he woke to the cruel sunlight and the same rickety shop, and that dream evaporated faster than palm oil on hot fufu. One evening, he heard about a ritual, not the ordinary kind you read about in newspapers or hear at market gossip corners. This was special, whispered by a bent old man in a torn agbada. Come tomorrow, at the edge of the forest, midnight, bring nothing but yourself. Wealth you shall have, but pay attention. Tunde blinked. He didn't hear the pay attention part clearly. He was too busy imagining fattened cows and fat bank accounts. The next day, Tunde sneaked into the forest, barefoot, heart thumping. The old man waited by a strange circle drawn with white chalk. Candles flickered, casting shadows that danced on the trees. Sit, the old man said. Do not speak, do not move. Tunde obeyed, though his stomach growled like a lion trapped in a market. The ritual began. Strange chants, odd smells like roasted yam mixed with burnt fish. Tunde tried not to gag. Then the old man handed him a small black stone. Bury it, he whispered, and remember, your shadow stays behind. Tunde paused. My shadow. He thought, what kind of nonsense is this? But he was desperate. He buried the stone, the ground trembled slightly, the wind howled, and Tunde felt lighter. And suddenly, riches began to appear. By morning, Tunde discovered money, not just small coins, piles of notes, enough to buy every goat in Ijebu-Eko and still have change. He ran to the village square, chest puffed like pride. I am rich, he shouted. Villagers stared, some clapped, some gawked, some whispered. Where did he get that money? Is this juju? Does he have a shadow? Tunde laughed, tossing coins to children. He was still busy imagining his new house and fancy wardrobe to notice the faint absence of darkness following him. That night, as he slept in his new bed, something strange happened. His reflection in the mirror didn't quite line up with him. He rubbed his eyes. It's just a lamp, he muttered. But deep down, Tunde felt a chill. Something was missing. And outside, in the silent village street, villagers began to whisper, have you noticed today? Alhaji Tunde has no shadow. By the next morning, Alhaji Tunde had become the talk of Ijebu-Eko. Children ran after him shouting, Uncle Tunde, throw us money. Women peeked from their windows muttering, see how he is, all rich and proud. Even the men at the beer parlor leaned forward rubbing their chins. Where did he get all this money? Tunde, of course, loved every second. He wore new agbadas, a gold chain that could blind a man at noon, and shoes so shiny they almost reflected the sun back into the sky. He strutted around the village square like a roosted, showing off its tail feathers. But then people noticed something strange. No matter how brightly the sun shone, Tunde's shadow refused to appear. Children screamed when it should have been following him. Dogs barked at him for no reason. Goats stopped grazing when he walked past. At first, Tunde laughed it off. Shadow. Who needs a shadow when you have money? But whispers began. He buried something. That money is not free. It is not natural. By day 3, the villagers started avoiding walking behind him. Elderly women crossed the road, clutching their wrappers tightly, muttering prayers. Children refused to play near his house, afraid of catching whatever curse came with wealth. Today's new wealth brought parties though, and those were spectacular. The true feasts invited the whole village and handed out coins and chickens. Yet, the absence of a shadow kept everyone uneasy. One night, Tunde stood in his lavish backyard staring at the moonlight bouncing off his marble floors. No shadow at all, he muttered. Then he laughed nervously. Perhaps shadows are overrated. perhaps people overvalue them. But as he reached for a glass of palm wine, the reflection in his window moved independently, as if mocking him. Tunde froze. Is someone or something watching me? Outside, the villagers whispered again. He is rich, but unnatural. The ritual, it worked, but at what cost? And from that night on, today learned a new rule of wealth in Ijebu-Eko. The richer you are, the more eyes and thoughts follow you. By the end of the first week, Alhaji Tunde realized that having no shadow was not as fun as he imagined. He started small. At sunrise, the village children would shout, "Look, Uncle Tunde has no shadow." Tunde laughed at first, tossing them coins. "Go play, children. Shadows are overrated." But soon, even mirrors betrayed him. When he looked at his reflection in the window or in polished floors, it moved slightly off. Quick one. If you are listening to us for the first time, please do well to like, subscribe, leave a comment, and share. Thank you. Sometimes his hand lifted a second too late. Sometimes his eyes blinked after his own reflection had already closed. Tunde rubbed his eyes. "It's just my imagination. Or maybe the wine was too strong," he muttered. Then came the whispers from villagers. "He is cursed. He buried his soul for money." No shadow means no rest at night. People avoided his compound at night. Goats refused to cross his path. Even the town crier whispered with caution when announcing his wealth. One evening, Tunde invited his friends to admire his riches. "Come see the house, the cars, the money, the chickens that never die." They came, they gasped, they laughed, but when they noticed no shadow followed Tunde, they froze. "Eh, Tunde, where is your shadow?" one friend asked nervously. Tunde waved his hand. "Who cares? I have wealth." But that night, while he slept, strange things happened. Coins moved steadily on their own. Shadows in the corners of rooms swirled and danced, and sometimes in the dark, he heard whispers in his own voice. "You paid too high a price. You buried what should have not been buried." The villagers will notice soon. Today's woke sweating, clutching his chest. "Maybe this world isn't free," he thought. The villagers, meanwhile, began acting oddly around him. Children refused to greet him. Elders muttered prayers when he passed. Some even started leaving small offerings at his gate. If only they knew. Today thought, "This is nothing compared to what I sacrificed." The comedy came after absurd situations. He tripped over invisible shadows in his own house. Chickens in his yard refused to follow him, running away as if afraid of the missing shadow. Dogs barked at him from every corner like he was a ghost. Today realized one undeniable truth. Money alone cannot fix whatever is lost. The villagers whispered that his shadowlessness was a warning, and today began to suspect that perhaps the ritual had buried more than just a shadow. It had buried part of his soul. And from the shadows that went there, something else seemed to be watching him back. By the third week, Alhaji Tunde realized wealth without a balance came with a price, and his price was strange, frightening, and absurd all at once. The villagers no longer just whispered, they stared. Children ran screaming from his compound. Women crossed the road to avoid him, and even his friends began leaving early from his lavish parties. "It's just jealousy," Tunde muttered, stroking his golden chain. "They are envious, nothing more." But the signs were clear. At noon, the sun refused to shine fully on him. At night, his reflections no longer mirrored him correctly. Sometimes, they seemed to wink at him, smirking. The chickens in his yard refused to eat from his hands, hopping away as if he were a ghost. One morning, Tunde woke to find a note in his mansion. It read, "Your shadow waits for you. Pay the price or lose more than your wealth." He crumpled it, shaking. "Who dares?" The villagers began reporting odd happenings. The baker said his bread wouldn't rise whenever Tunde passed by. The tailor claimed his needles bent spontaneously. The school teacher swore as students misbehaved only in Tunde's presence. All blamed the missing shadow. Tunde tried to laugh it off, but even he noticed a creeping cold in his chest every time he looked outside. The wealth that had made him rich now isolated him. One evening, Tunde hosted a grand feast, trying to prove that money could solve everything. The comedy of errors was immediate. The roasted goat jumped from the tray. The golden chandelier swayed wildly, almost eating the guests. The butler, who had just polished the silver, tripped over thin air and yelled, "Ah, shadows strike back!" Tunde laughed nervously, but the laughter didn't reach his eyes. By midnight, the ritual's consequences fully revealed themselves. He began to feel invisible, like people didn't really see him anymore. Strange voices whispered through the walls, repeating, "The shadow is yours, the shadow is yours." Even his gold seemed dull, as if mocking him. The villagers murmured outside his gates, debating whether to confront him or leave him to his fate. One elder whispered, "We warned him. Wealth without a shadow is a dangerous thing." And somewhere deep inside, Tunde realized that all the laughter, all the riches, could not fill the hollow left by what he had buried. Tunde's friends had abandoned him, the villagers feared him, and he was trapped in a mansion full of wealth, but no shadow, no laughter that reached his eyes, and no peace. The first question loomed: would he reclaim his shadow or lose it forever? By the 5th week, Alhaji Tunde had learned a hard truth. You cannot outrun what you bury, not even your own shadow. The villagers no longer whispered, they watched. Every step he took, their eyes followed. Children pointed and laughed nervously. Women crossed themselves, and even the town crier refused to announce his wealth without muttering a prayer. Tunde, however, refused to admit fear. "I am rich. What need have I of shadows?" He boasted to the empty dining hall, where even the chandelier seemed to leer at him. Then came the night of reckoning. A storm rolled over Ijebu-Eko. Rain beat down like a drum. Lightning flashed like the hands of a vengeful god. And Tunde stood alone in his mansion, staring at his reflection. The mirror wavered. His reflection grinned at him, but it was not grinning. A voice whispered from the shadows, "You buried me. Now I return." Tunde screamed and stumbled backward. The gold coins in his pocket falls on the floor, rattled as if alive. The chandelier swung violently. The reflection in the window winked. The next morning, the villagers gathered near his gates, curious and nervous. What they saw made them laugh, scream, and gasp all at once. Alhaji Tunde stood in the sunlight, and his shadow had returned, but it was odd. It danced and twisted independently. It sometimes moved faster than him, sometimes lagged behind. At one point, it even hopped over a puddle while he stepped around it carefully. The villagers whispered, "The shadow has a mind of its own. The man is cursed, or perhaps he has been punished." Tunde, however, tried to act casual. Yes, everything is fine," he muttered, tugging at his rope. But the shadow had other plans. It tugged at his sleeve during church service, making him stumble. It hid coins in his mansion, forcing him to chase them like a fool. And sometimes, when he thought no one was watching, it mimicked his laughter, only louder, mocking, and oddly cruel. By evening, Tunde realized the final lesson of wealth without humility. The riches were his, but he had traded freedom for gold. The villagers now respected him, not for his wealth, but for his ridiculous dancing shadow. And every time he laughed, the shadow laughed louder. Tunde sighed, looking down at his bizarre companion. "Very well," he said, "you win. I buried you, I lost you, and now I shall live without you forever." The villagers, watching from the distance, clapped, laughed, and whispered, "We always knew wealth had a price. Sometimes the price is comic enough to make everyone laugh, except the man who pays it." In the end, Alhaji Tunde kept his riches. His shadow followed him everywhere, reminding him of the costs. The village never stopped talking, laughing, and gossiping. And Tunde, he learned to walk carefully, never again underestimating what a shadow could do. The moral, as every child in Ijebu-Eko would later recite, money can buy plenty, but it cannot buy what you buried or make it behave. Quick one. If you are listening to us for the first time, please do well to like, subscribe, leave a comment, and share. Thank you.